Thank you for staying tuned. It's time for us to talk about something very, very important, something we cannot ignore or shove aside. All right, so this has to do with Down syndrome, but let me not get ahead of myself. I've got here with me Tonye Faloghi-Ekezie. She is an entrepreneur and the head of Teeof Media, where she consults on media entertainment projects for a number of clients. A second child in marriage was diagnosed with Down syndrome, which sets them on a new course in life. Now, Tonye is here with me to tell us about her works towards this condition. How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic. Such a pleasure, really. Now, when we talk about Down syndrome, we've heard the medical version of it.
Yes.
But there's always the version of the person who has first-hand experience with it.
Sure.
So in your own words and following your own experience, how would you describe Down syndrome?
Well, it's pretty easy to understand. From a lay person's perspective, it's not a disease. It's not contagious. It's a genetic disorder. So if you think, most people are born with 46 chromosomes, so that's 23 pairs.
Yeah.
But the medical name for Down syndrome is trisomy 21, because with Down syndrome, you have an extra chromosome on the 21st pair. So you have 47 chromosomes in total. And that basically results in some of the common things you might see with the slanted eyes, flat face, small ears, learning or cognitive delays, things like that.
Now, when you held your baby for the first time and you realized that, was it immediate for you, or did it take a while for the doctors to diagnose it?
It took a while. In fact, I didn't do any of the, I didn't do the amnio test. I did the anomaly scan during my pregnancy, but I refused to have the amnio test because I really believe that whatever child God gave me was the child I was meant to have. And I truly believe that. So when I gave birth to her in the United States, there was a normal delivery. She didn't look like she had Down syndrome. All those things that they look at for all babies, she didn't flag up any. And it wasn't until we were back in Nigeria, actually, that the doctor, Dr. Sanusi, God bless her, was like, I want to test her for Down syndrome. Not that it's obvious, but something she said in her spirit was telling her, and we got the results. Unfortunately, you know, it was upsetting at the time, but, you know, it's actually been our blessing. All
right. So, you know, there are certain characteristics that one uses to identify Down syndrome children who are actually, you know, affected by it. Now, there's something that I would like to know. For your child not showing the symptoms, so to speak, in the beginning, does she still, right now, does she exhibit those characteristics?
Well, I think with any disorder, there's like a scale, and she is what they classify, although it's, I just find it a little strange, high functioning. So her physical abilities are very good. She's got good gross motor skills, fine motor skills, but her main delay was in the speech and language, but she's doing very well with therapy. The physical part, she's got good muscle tone. She's really putting words together. I would say she's 4 now, but maybe her learning age is about 2.5 currently. But she's doing very well. She's at a traditional school. She's at a fully mainstream school. She has a facilitator to help her in class. And she's doing very well. She does gymnastics, she does football.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
she's doing really well. So the key there, I would say, is that everybody's different. But when it comes to Down syndrome and disorders that have that learning cognitive side to them, it's really important to do early intervention. The learning years for children are 0 to 6, and those are the majority of time you do all your brain growth, development, building. And for those children with the learning delays, it's really, really important to do early intervention in those years, because you want to raise children that are independent, that can get jobs. And what I want to make people realize is that, yes, someone might have a diagnosis of Down syndrome, but they're not useless. They're not imbeciles. They are wonderful people to know, and if given a chance, they can actually hold jobs, they get married, they have children, they can drive, and they can be full members of society. And unfortunately, the inability doesn't come from them, it comes from us who have decided they are not able, when they are very able. If we can have them, help them in that learning time from 0 to 6.
Now, Tonye, your daughter is very fortunate to have a mother like you who is proactive. However, there are several mothers, several parents, in fact, who don't even know what's going on with their child. And some of them, even when they do know what's going on, they don't have the means, when I'm talking about the means, the financial means to help that child achieve his or her full potential. So how...
I'm really glad you asked that, because, you know, it's part of the reason I'm talking and going about, because someone will look at me and say, oh, this Oyibo, you know, she doesn't have any problem now. And I want people to realize it can happen to anybody, and it's not a curse. Now, financially, it is taxing because no insurance covers any therapy. So that means you're coming out of pocket. But even if you have the money, you may not be able to access the therapy. So what I try to do, especially as someone may not be financially viable, but they want to be an advocate for their child, but they're not able to afford it. So it's important to have people be able to access information. And thank God we live in the day we do because of the internet. So what I try to do is share my knowledge. I'm not a professional, but I am a mother, and I'm an advocate for my child. And anything I've experienced, someone else is going through it right now. So I feel I have a responsibility not only to make the world aware that my child has a right to exist in the spaces that other people do, but that other people can help themselves just by a few things. You don't have to be a genius to play with your child and teach them through play, to sing with your child and teach them through song. That's kind of how it happened with me and my children. So unfortunately for us, our major issue wasn't the Down syndrome. Because of her diagnosis, and because about 60% of kids with Down syndrome will have some kind of congenital heart defect, the next step immediately was to get to echocardiogram, so the full scan of the heart, and ours was not good. Hers was the worst it could be, and they gave her 6 months to live.
Whoa.
Yeah, so we had to kind of stop everything, pack everything up, head to the States. And she wasn't even well enough to do the open heart surgery. They had to get her well enough first to do the surgery. And thank God, surgery went well. However, while it went well anatomically, her heart didn't improve. So we were actually waiting for a heart transplant. And it was a really, really crazy time. But in that time, I educated myself, and I learned. And you know what? One day, her heart started to pick and function. And we didn't need it again. So eventually, once she was off all the medications, we came back here. And moms know, you know, specifically moms know what it is like when you've invested everything in your children, but they start to be independent, they go to school and everything, and you're kind of lost. You don't know,
Especially
you've lost yourself.
A child you've given so much of
given
yourself.
everything, but you're lost. You put your identity into them and doing everything, and then suddenly they're going off, and you have this time on your hands, and your mind starts to work, and you're like, oh my goodness, who am I? What do I do?
Was that what informed the Down syndrome
Yes.
Foundation?
So what happened is that I met up with an old friend, Yemisi Taiwo. She's an actress on Brethren, because I had kind of faded out focusing on this. Nobody knew where I was. I came back, and my sister was like, hey, get in touch with Yemisi. Do you know her son has Down syndrome? And I was like, I had no idea. So we caught up. We really talked, and it was really emotional. And she made me realize that what I knew, I could help others. And coincidentally, around that time, my son, God bless him, my son, Ugo, he's older than his sister by about 20 months, came up to me one day, and he was so annoyed. You know, a 4-year-old, so annoyed and so angry with me. And he was like, Mom, it's unfair. All these people come to the house every day to play with Simone. That's my daughter's name. Why can't I come? It's not fair. And I had to explain to him, she has something called Down syndrome. These people are not just coming to play with her, they're coming to help her. And I struggled with that conversation because it's hard to explain chromosomes and genes to a 4-year-old. So I looked around for resources, and in that looking around, I found a few things, but realized, number one, there really isn't that much stuff showing Black African kids in books or in cartoons. but also there was nothing regarding Down syndrome or special needs that portrayed Black children. So I just like, you know what? I can do this. I have a background in TV and film production. I'm not a writer, but I am a mom. Nobody can deny this experience. What can I do to share? How can I educate? And then, you know, I put this together and I wrote Ugo and Simpson, What is Down Syndrome?
So that was what informed. It's a fantastic book, by the way.
Thank you very much.
Done.
Yeah, so I just felt, number one, to encourage reading and for children to see themselves, but also with the parent reading it to the child, the parent is also learning. And to understand that Down syndrome is just a part of life. It's not the only thing in our life. And these children are a blessing.
There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot for us to really dissect when it comes to this. But so far, it's been such a pleasure to have you on the show. Tonye Faloghi-Ekezie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Let me just say one thing. You can follow my page at Simone's Oasis, and all our information on Down syndrome and special needs is there.
Fantastic, fantastic. We'll return after this break. Of course, you know, Wake Up Nigeria continues, so stay with us.